Well, just in the last 15 minutes or so, things have changed slightly. This morning, things were very quiet, very subdued, very peaceful. They were doing yoga in the middle of Oxford Circus. More and more numbers started arriving by sort of 10 o'clock or so. And as I said, within the last 15 minutes, things have shifted slightly because I estimate maybe sort of 300 or so police officers have just arrived. I'm going to step out the way so you can have a better look. They've essentially surrounded this big pink boat, which is essentially the Extinction Rebellion iconic boat that's been sitting in the middle of Oxford Circus for the last 5 days. It's worth saying that also in the last hour or so, the actress Emma Thompson, who's a big supporter of the movement, has arrived. She addressed crowds here. You can see her there on the live shot. A couple of officers too arriving with carabiners, perhaps indicating that they might try and get up and try and get people safely off that boat. Underneath you can see there are people chained to it. They say they're refusing to move until the government address their demands. I interviewed Emma Thompson earlier. This is what she had to say about the protests and the climate change threat more broadly.
I've been with Greenpeace to the Arctic twice. I've stood on the bare glaciers. I've seen the plastic in the oceans. I've seen evidence for myself. And I really do care about my children and my grandchildren enough to want to be here today to stand next to the next generation who are so inspiring, who so understand the problem. It's as though we've just been going around, well, not me actually, I've been banging on about it for years, and so have many, many people. But I really do feel like I can't even describe the level of hypocrisy from our government.
So, Helen Ann, that's all happening behind you in Oxford Circus. What's the latest on Heathrow, where there hasn't been quite the same turnout from Extinction Rebellion protesters?
Yeah, well, there were big concerns that Heathrow would be brought to a standstill today. The protesters saying yesterday they were going to up the ante, block that airport because air travel is so damaging to the environment. Really what ended up happening is only about 20 young people turning up, blocked a road for a very short period of time and then moved off. Not a single flight affected, which of course a big relief for the 500,000 or so people who might have been looking to travel this bank holiday weekend. But really here, this feels like this is where the police attention is. So far, the tactic has been quite softly. Police arriving, picking off, arresting protesters one by one. And although those, numbers of those arrested exceeding 600, in the context of the thousands of people who have been here over the last 5 days and at other sites across London, that's really not that many, very many. And indeed, the process of arresting, very, very resource and time intensive. Protesters adopting a tactic where they're lying on the ground, which means it's taking 4 officers at least to arrest each individual. And they also don't have the space or the resource within custody to hold them for very long. So as I said, police on other days have arrived and started arresting pretty quickly. They've been here 15 minutes or so, standing, blocking some of the key locations. But at the moment, they haven't made a move. So we will see what happens and what develops in the coming minutes and hours.